Hi, everyone, and welcome to this live bonus lecture with our guest, Oline from Acembee. This has been a bit spontaneous and a completely crazy week for me before Midsummer, like the day before Midsummer. I don't know how many of you are watching this live, but hopefully you enjoy it in the recording during your weekend. Right now we're in week 3, so people are working hard on their projects and on visualization of the data from sensors. And now everyone's getting a bit stressed because it's coming to an end right in the next week. But today I was thinking that we share some inspiration. Lena coming from an IoT startup as a founder of an IoT startup right in Denmark, in Copenhagen. And once she was also a student just like you. And I think it's very interesting how you basically start creating things with hardware and software from nothing, and have an impact on the industry. And we talk a bit more about your mission. So yeah, please do introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi everybody. My name is Oline, and I am the co-founder of Acembee. And I was a student 1.5 years ago, so not that long ago, and have been working with IoT for quite a while now. And I love all the possibilities that IoT has. And there's so many business opportunities out there if you know how to work with IoT. So I really look forward to telling you more about our business and what we do.
Do you want me to put your slides on?
Yes, I think that would be great. Because then I'm going to start out with a small introduction about our company and what our mission is and what the focus that we have. And I think when you work with IoT, there are so many options and so many possibilities. And that has been one of the biggest issues for us, is to actually target a very specific segment and find and actually limit ourselves a little bit. Because in the beginning, we were all over the place. We wanted to solve all the IoT problems that were out there, and quickly realized that that's maybe not the way to do it when you're a little company. And instead we try to find something that we are very passionate about, and then build something with that specific purpose. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. What is it exactly? And these slides are the slides that I usually use when I pitch Acembee. And I know that maybe here in the beginning, I always talk about what IoT actually is, but of course, all of you already know this. But a lot of people don't, and you probably know that if you say that you're doing an IoT. I think it just sounds like a word for most people. Our name before we became Acembee was IoTB, and I loved that name, but everybody kept calling it JB, and it was so frustrating for us. Every time the post was here with a package for us, they were like, package for JB or IoT, and it just became too confusing. So we actually had to remove IoT from our name to make it clearer for our customers what we work with. And now we are Acembee instead. But of course, IoT stands for Internet of Things, and means when physical things can be connected to the internet via sensors, or you can control things with relays over the internet. And then I have an example that relates to the problem that we're solving. So on the picture here, you see a construction site in the middle of the night. A lot of light is on. And this is, of course, not very sustainable. And also, I live right next to a construction site, and it's really annoying having so strong light on 24/7. It's quite difficult to fall asleep with a projector.
Off, right? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't they turn it off? But it's because they forget. And I hear from some people that it's because they're afraid of thieves coming in and stealing equipment on the site. But some days they turn it off, some days they don't. So, and then we talk to the contractors, it's not really the case. It's just a matter of who is in charge of doing that, and is that person there. So this is a problem that can be solved with IoT.
Yeah.
Instead of having one, like you have to go around and turn off all the different contacts that are connected to the light, on the entire construction site, or you have to wire the electricity in a specific way, you can just put IoT devices on the light and hereby automatically control it. Like Philips Hue or these other home like IoT devices already exist. Exactly. But this is of course different types of power. It's much more power. So it's bigger the devices that we work with. Yeah. But this is a problem we came across in Acembee, and we started talking to different contractors, and all of them told us that more than 55% of the power consumption is used when no one is there. And that's to me, that's just, it's scary, and it's a huge number. And in an industry that pollutes so much, I was thinking, okay, this has to be solved, because this is something that's actually solvable quite easily. So, and why is it that 55% of the power is used outside of office hours? Well, if you look at a work week, most of the time at offices or at construction sites, no one is there. So of course, if you don't optimize on the power hungry equipment, then, or turn it off, then there's going to be a lot of consumption. And then we analyze the data, like I hear that you're doing right now with the sensors you're working with. It's kind of the same process that we've been doing. We put a sensor out there, we gathered the data, and then we could see that most of the power, it wasn't the lighting was a bit of it, but most of it was actually heating in these containers. And that's what data can do for you. It gives you insights that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I think that's where IoT is so important when it comes to sustainability, because if we don't have the data, we don't know, we would never know. And then we cannot solve some of the biggest problems that we have, like global warming. Yeah. And then we started building the product around this to see, okay, how can we save on the biggest power consumer outside of office hours on the construction site? And then we built two different solutions. So now I'm going into more of the technical details. And I know this presentation is made for people who don't have the experience with IoT. So if you have more questions afterwards, then we can go maybe more into details about what is actually inside the equipment and what does it require to build this from scratch. But we have two different solutions. So one that goes on the construction side and one that goes into the units. And the reason why we have had to build two different is we need one for the lighting and for the big equipment out on the site, but we cannot use that for the units because these office units, they have so many of them. And in all of them, there is fridges for their food.
So if we turn electrical heating as well, right? Just is it like a radiator in every one of them as well?
Exactly. It's electric heating and heating pumps. Yeah. And if we just turn everything off with a big relay, IoT relay, like we do with the light, then we would turn off the fridges. And it's not very nice having saved some food on Friday and then coming back Monday morning. And then if it's in the summer, right? So we have to build a different system that's a bit smarter. Yes. So the first solution here on the construction side is basically a big box with two cables in both ends, and this one is used to control the lighting and the machines and all of that on the construction site. I can show you the box later. We're building them next door. And this device, inside of that one, there is a relay, there is a connectivity chip, there is a SIM card, there is an microcomputer, and also sensor for measuring kilowatt hours. And then this can automatically be connected to our cloud, and hereby we can control and turn things on and off with the relay and also gather all the measurements. And the other system that we have is we built inside the electricity cabinets so that we can measure the power on each group, and we can also control with these smaller relays. So this is a different system, but it's built up around the same components and the same idea, small relays, measurements for kilowatt hours. And then we also have a small temperature sensor, so we can control the temperature with the relays by turning the heating on and off. Does it make sense?
Yeah. For me, that's we'll see.
Okay, that's good. Otherwise, just ask questions if there's
Yeah.
anything that's unclear. But it's the same code that actually is on the device. It just controls smaller relays, and it controls. So it's just the components around the IoT device that changes. Yes. And then, of course, when you work with IoT, it's not only the hardware, it's also the dashboard. And I think this is also why it is so complex, because there's so many different parts in an IoT product. It's not only hardware, it's not only connectivity, it's not only web, it's all of it that has to be integrated and work well together for you to have a functioning product and happy customers. So we also have a platform where they can go in and they can set up their working schedule. So they tell the system, when do we meet in the morning and when do we leave? So it knows when it can lower temperatures and when it can turn lighting off. Yes. And we also include a dashboard where they can see the consumption, how it distributes among different groups. And this actually also helps them with new ways to optimize their power consumption. Then they can see, okay, we are suddenly consuming a lot on this and within this group, then maybe there are ways for us to make the consumption less. Yes. And this slide.
Sorry, how do you get the data on the consumption? Do you also have electrical meters that are integrated, or is that also in the device that is also measuring?
So that's also in the device. So since we connected to the cables, we can put a sensor on our device as well that collects the kilowatt hour measurements and then transmit it up into the cloud. So it's both a control unit, but it's also a sensor. Yes.
I understand.
Great. And this is just to compare the data. So the blue line is one of these containers or heated office units, how much they consume if there's no control. And the orange line is when we control. So we can see how during the weekends, the line becomes flat. And also at night, it becomes flat because then there is no consumption. And hereby we can lower it by more than 50%. Yeah.
That's really cool.
But this one was also in February. So we say 40% just to be on the safe side to our customers, but it is actually more in some areas. So what are the benefits? And this is benefits for the customer in the end with this IoT solution. They can save money and they are interested in that. They are ready for ESG and LCA regulations. I don't know if you know what that means, but there are becoming stricter and stricter regulations in the EU around how much you can consume on the construction sites, and you have to measure it and you have to document it. And this is where we can help them to get the data ready for all these regulations and also make sure that they don't use too much CO2. It's kind of like having another, like a financial report, but for your CO2 emissions.
Yeah, so it's to make sure that everyone is adhering to and going for the sustainability goals, right? So it's I haven't heard of specifically about these regulations, but we also, like, the IoT lab here is financed by the EU project, and we also have to actually report how do we address sustainability in how are we helping companies to think about it for the first, right? And if we did make a change, then it's also like it has to be documented, and it becoming like I think it's a positive change that without regulations you can't really manage this like high so many actors that have to now act, right? So it's that may be annoying for the companies, I suppose, to also think about that.
Yes, but I also think it helps them a lot. I know we hear from the construction sites that they're very happy that these regulations are coming, because then they can, then it's no longer a matter of because they're competing a lot on price. But if everybody has to be regulated, then they can do all these sustainability things without being outcompeted by people that don't on price. So I think they're actually really happy about it because they want to do something. It's not nice being in the most polluting industry and doing bad things for the environment. You want to help it. At least that's what I sense from most of the partners that we have. Yes. And consume less CO2, like we just talked about. That's great. It's of course a plus. Apart from saving money, then I think this CO2 part becomes more and more important. Usually when you want to save CO2, it costs you money. That's for a lot of other different products you can buy. But our product both saves the customer money and also CO2. And then they spend less time collecting the data. I think that's actually also where IoT is really smart. And I think there's so many places where US students can come up with ideas for solutions, but our customers, they actually go around on the construction site and then they write down measurements from manual meters. So they put up a metering point that measures the water consumption or the electricity consumption. And then each day they walk around on the site construction site and then they write down or take pictures of how much has been consumed instead of having IoT implemented.
What year is this? Right.
Exactly, but they almost all of them do it. It is, and it's just paying for these IoT products. It's important for them that there's also, that it's not only an expense, but that it also saves them something. And this definitely pushes the agenda on getting more efficient data collection. Yes. And then less friction. I don't know how many of you have been on a construction site, but there can be a lot of friction between the different parties. There's so many different people involved from different companies, and this creates a lot of friction because who was it who forgot to turn off the light?
Yeah, it's your fault.
Exactly. And now we got complaints from the neighbors, and we're not following the regulations and all of this. So it's just much better to automate that so no one has to think about it. Yeah, so this is just the sum of all the points I just went through. And this is a quote from one of our customers that says that this is truly a low-hanging fruit for sustainability. And I think it's really important when you think about making a product for customer to make it easy for them and not too complex, because then, making it a low-hanging fruit is definitely will push it out much faster. And just a little bit about where we're at. So Acembee is a company that is 2 years old. I have a background as a software engineer, and Holger, you see in this picture, he's my co-founder. He's an electrical engineer, and we are right now active on 6 construction sites. We have 20 in our pipeline, and we estimate that we will save 45 tons of CO2 this year. But actually, we started building this exact product in November last year.
Wow, this is really, so you can tell more about that later. Sort of how did you come to this specific idea? But this is it's impressive that in such a short time you managed to do that.
Thank you. And I also want to say that there has been some work leading up to it that makes it easier, but we can go more into details like development-wise, where we've been and how we started. And I have some suggestions for what not to do and what to do if you want to do the same or something similar. Yes. And this is an example from a construction site. So this is like a small or medium-sized construction site, and we can save them 9 tons of CO2 on their small container and unit city. Yes. Awesome. And that's it. That was my presentation. Yeah. I actually wanted to show a picture of our team as well.
Yeah, because that's my next question. If you can tell me how we can walk around the office with you very soon, but you can, maybe it's easier if you have a picture of a team and say, how you started. So you were just 2 together, right? Were you still students then in the master's program?
Yes, we were still students when we started. And me and Holger, we've been working together for 4 years now. We started out working as consultants. So I think that's a brilliant way to get started, because if you work with IoT or software, something similar to that, you have so many skills that can be utilized. and so many companies, especially smaller size companies, that can really need use your help as a student. And that's how we started. So it was working freelance for smaller companies, and that's actually how we found out that this IoT field, it's extremely complex and very confusing. Even for us as engineers, when we started, we were like, okay, how do we even put this thing into production? How do we build it? Can we use an Arduino? So many different things, and that's how we started Acembee, is to we wanted to simplify things. But it basically started out with being just a small job for a smaller company.
So was it directly like construction field, or were you working for some other type of businesses in the beginning?
So it was a completely different type of business in the beginning. So we started working for, actually the first job that we did was for my dad. So always network is a good way to get started, but he had a lot of problems with, they used a lot of time on reading all of these PDFs and writing it down manually. And I thought, okay, we can fix that with some PDF scraping and some pattern matching. So very software related job. And then after that one, we thought, okay, there must be more companies that need stuff like this. So we started doing outreach. And I want to say that is probably the biggest barrier that I had to get over. And I think a lot of companies in the beginning, that is the problem. And especially when you are an engineer or a very technical person, calling someone that you've never talked to before and asking them if they want to buy something from you. That is very, I was so nervous. We also used email outreach and stuff like that, but it worked. So at the end, we got a customer that we had no contact with before, and they had a lot of hardware where they wanted IoT connected on it. And that is how we got into IoT. So a problem from a customer, and then we were 3 students and we started working on that.
Yes, really cool. Yeah, do you want me to put the picture of the team though? So how many of you are now? Look at that.
Yes. So we started out, me and Holger, and now we are 8 people. So, and mostly technical people. We definitely need to expand our team with more. I think also a piece of advice is to find people who can do things like different things than you, but we really needed technical people here, and like it's very important, because we need, building something like this is just difficult, and you need a lot of different expertise. It's not only hardware, it's not only connectivity, it's not only software. Like I said before, it's so many different things. But we have an amazing team. We started out with 2 student developers. They're still with us today. Actually, all of the people here has been here for quite a while, almost from the beginning, and I'm very happy every day when I come into the office, and feel very lucky about the team that we have. They're so talented, and way more talented than I am in doing software and hardware and all of this. So it's amazing working with them.
Yeah, so cool. But how did you start building up a team? So, like, if you were together first, you and Holger, just getting on some consulting projects. How did the first product look like that you received funding for, right? And was it still at the university?
Yes. So when we started when we moved away from doing the consultancy and moved into doing Acembee, the first product looked so bad. I wish I could maybe get it so you can see it.
Do you have it?
I'll just ask Holger 1 second, because it was like we'd never built an IoT product from scratch before. We've always used Arduinos or something, Raspberry Pi, and then we've built around that. But we needed something that was way more power efficient, because it had to run on a battery, and therefore we had to find a microchip of some sort and combine it with a connectivity chip, and then build the PCB from scratch. And Holger did that, and actually the first prototype worked, which I'm I'm surprised by now, looking back and thinking about how difficult it actually was trying. And I don't know, have you worked with AT commands?
No.
So when you want to write something specifically to a device, then it is
Also
an
like
AT command.
yeah.
Holger just came with it.
Oh, it's amazing. This looks exactly like our projects here in the course. So in the course, people have to kind of build their first like own IoT device right from scratch, and they're only allowed to use the microcontroller. Like you have to.
That's great. That's Holger. Do you want to say hi? I don't know. You can't hear them, but you can just.
Hi.
So this was built by Holger, and then the next one looked like this. So it was a bit of an upgrade, as you can see.
It's nice. So what problem was that solving? Was it still for construction?
Second. One thing, I'm just gonna take these off.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're muted, Venta. You're muted now. I can't hear you.
Here we go.
Yeah, what I was saying is that this is like the first prototype, and it was like the thing that we built that made the whole idea feasible, you know. And it's very ugly, but it did
the job.
Exactly. Yeah, it worked.
Cool. Can
What
you
did you
connect?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
it's like otherwise it's like echoes a little bit. If
Yes.
it's the microphone. Yeah. So what was that also for construction side for one of the customers, or just completely something else?
Completely something else. So we started out with the idea of making an IoT device that could connect with any type of sensor, and we've actually succeeded with doing that, building a product that could be used in industrial settings. And they can just set it up online. They can choose the sensor they want, and then they're ready to go to make it plug and play and very easy. And that was the idea from the beginning. And we had so many different types of customers. So the first one here was used to measure water levels in wells to monitor potential flooding. And then we did a project where we monitored corrosion protection again, and then we did one with measuring flow in water, and we did so many different things, and then it was just difficult to scale the business from that point.
But how come how did you find this niche? Because like we, for instance, in the lab also work a lot with small and medium-sized companies. There's like a project that's supposed like from the EU to support them, right? And then it's not the same as the consulting, but we still kind of educate them about the possibilities and direct them in a certain solution, right? And there are a lot of already consumer grade, like of ready-made sensors, for instance, for the water level, right, or the leakage, or there are industrial sensors very expensive for every specific purpose, right? So how come that? How did you find these companies that were interested in this custom build solutions and also convince them now trust us with this, right? This is gonna work when they don't have maybe so much technical background.
I think because there wasn't really any other solution for them. The other solution they had was to build things from scratch or hire a very expensive consultancy company to build it for them for millions. So I think they just had to find something in the middle, and or at least something that wasn't too expensive for them. And then we came and said to them, you don't have to pay for any of our development because that's part of our business. You just have to buy the finished product.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did that transform into this new device, if you can, that you were talking about in the slides?
Yeah, so we've in a while been realizing that building a product that everybody can use is not. You can do it, of course. There are Raspberry Pi, and I know they just had an IPO. So I know that companies like this, they exist, but it is very, very difficult to do from a business perspective. And so we had to pick somewhere to focus here in the beginning. And then I got in contact with a company, a contractor, And they told me about this big problem that they had this big consumption outside of office hours. And I thought, that sounds insane. And all of us really wants to do something related to sustainability because we're all very passionate about that. So then I started calling different contractors and asked all of them, do you have this problem? Do you have this problem? And all of them said, yes, we have this problem.
Wow.
We don't know what to do. And then I thought, okay, this might be it. So our idea was just, okay, we have this modular system. It's this device with these connectors. And we can connect a kilowatt hour measurement and a relay to this and build it pretty fast within a month and get it out there and just start testing and see, can we actually save money and CO2? And then it showed that we could. And then we just started focusing on that specific product.
Yeah. So how did you finance it at that stage? Did you apply for some innovation grant from DTU?
Yes, so we have gotten a lot of support both from DTU. They have a Skylab, which is an amazing place for startups with labs. I can hear you have something similar. It's really great. We used it a lot. Then we applied for, there's also something called the Innovation Fund, other funds as well, Microlegate, and also then after the first 2 years, we decided to raise a small round from angel investors. And that has been supporting our growth and then also sales, because we have been able to sell our product along the way.
Yeah, so that is cool. It is like a nice model. You already were used to working as consultants, right? So you have a business already, and then you just build on top of that. So how does the technical stack look like now for this nice device?
So we have two different devices, a smaller one, which is this one with a smaller battery inside, and then we have this one, which is the best one, I would say, that we've built so far. So you see it has 5 different connections, and it has a power access point, and then inside of it we have room for battery, and then we have 2 different boards that you can slide in here, making it possible for us to actually swap components out. So let's say right now we're using narrowband IoT to connect to the internet. Have you worked with narrowband, or have you had a...
No.
So that is using the 5G network, and it has a lower frequency, so you can transmit less data, but it can penetrate more places. So for example, if you put it down into a well, or if you put it on a construction site where there can be a lot of noise, then it can penetrate that. But if we end up in a situation where we need a different type of connectivity, then we can swap the connectivity board out.
Yeah, that's amazing. So then you can connect it to LoRa or whatever else if you need to adapt it. Yeah, that's amazing.
Exactly.
And what kind of chip was it? Like what's the base?
It's an Espressif 32 C3, and then we have a QuickTel module on it as well for narrowband.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so the firmware then is in C++, right, for that. So that's the first part. I don't know if you have like just forgot to ask you if you have an like architectural overview of how it's sort of different parts look like. But maybe you can just...
I have it somewhere, but it would maybe take me some time to dig it out. Yes. But we use Espressif to write the code and in C. But I think I would recommend anyone who's, of course, it's good to learn it, but writing in Arduino is actually not a bad idea because you can move way faster. It's much easier, and you don't make as many mistakes as you do in C, because in C you have to be aware of so many things at the same time. Of course, you can go more in detail, but I think if I should do something over, I would probably have done it in Arduino here to begin with.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think A lot of people think like no, this like Arduino is just for prototyping, it's not for serious applications. But I think it went a long way in the past few years. Like so, I had like a bit of a break in embedded systems, and when I came back to it, I'm like, well, is this what all I have to do now? Like you just press it. Like it's just so much easier, I think now, and with still without sacrificing performance. So I think
Exactly.
I would agree on that. Is there something else that you mentioned? Like you have a list of like what not to do when developing a new IoT product.
I think it's really like it depends on if it's like a hobby project or if it's something for a customer. But if it is a product that you want to sell, it's really important to include the customer all the way. I think I love technical things, and all of us do here at our team, and it's so easy to get stuck into small details that you think is important, but then the customer don't really think it's important. And I think it's so important to co-create with them while you build the product, because then you might find out down the road that it's a completely different way you need to solve it. And then also just get something out there as fast as possible. Don't spend too much time on making it perfect at the first go. Get it out there, get it tested, and then you'll find out along the way how to make it even better. Yeah, I think that would be it. And then also, I also think testing. We didn't do that much testing in the beginning.
Yeah.
Not that much, because you're like, oh, testing. No one wants to.
Yeah.
We just want to build and get it out there. But let's just say that we had a small accident with one of the boards, and yeah, do testing.
I haven't seen a test engineer on your team. How does that? What are your plans on that? Sort of, how is that built?
Everybody does it, and then we also hire external companies to do some of the certification for us and testing the product. So professionals that know what they're doing, they can test all of the very important things to make sure that the product is legal. And then for the smaller parts of the code, for the features, then our own team does it. And it's the person who writes that piece of the code that also writes the test. And that's how it is right now. But of course, it would be amazing to have a test engineer, but when you're a startup, you don't have that many resources, so you have to everybody has to do almost everything.
Yeah, but I mean, even if like, how would you test such a big system that has? I guess you try to work in a more agile way, right? As a startup, I'm just assuming that, but you still have to, as you said, go through these regulations, and maybe it's more difficult to push a release when you have both the hardware and the software updates, and it's a maybe more conservative branch, right? So how do you have like a test setup? Maybe that's the time when we go to the lab, right? How does that look like?
I can show you our lab. Then you can see. So this is our office. So I sit in here right now. I'm disturbing Imas a little bit today. This is Imas, our talented embedded engineer. He is amazing at doing all the detailed things that I'm not very good at. So that is great. And then we are staying in a place where we share some common space with other startups. And then we have our own 2 rooms. So we have this one, which is our more quiet room where we can sit and work, more focused and without being disturbed by building hardware. So we actually had only this room, and we built hardware in there at the same time, but it was just so noisy, and it's 2 different worlds kind of, and you need different equipment. So now we have a space next door where we built hardware. So these are our 3 builders at the moment, and we have of course all our components here.
I can remove myself so you can see you. Yeah, do you hear me? I was just gonna say, if I give you the full screen now, so you can show more in detail. But I'm here and I hear you.
Okay, perfect. So this is our place. We have all the different tools over here. We're trying to stay organized.
Yes.
We're doing our very best. And here we have our test lab. So if we need to test something on our devices, then Holger, he can do it here. And over here we are building the big boxes that I told you about. So this is the box, and on that one we are putting these cables so that you can connect it on the construction site. And I can just show you. They look like this. It's kind of like in Danish it would be forlængerledning. I don't know the word in English, but it's a connector so that you can just put it into the power, and then you can connect to our box without having to do too much work. And then over here, finally, we have some more of the testing equipment. We are right now running a test on the computer, and we are logging all the logs that we get from the devices so we can see if any bugs or errors happen before we ship something out to the customer. So I think that was it.
Yeah, so cool. It looks a little bit like our lab, but a lot smaller. Like you guys need more space for all your.
I think so too. We're moving in October, so that we have more space.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, I got the question here. We have in Discord the people that are watching, and they're already asking if you're hiring, if you have possibilities to expand now at this stage.
We definitely will at some point, but right now we are hiring people within web development and sales. So if the person asking would love to do any of those things, then please shoot me a message. And anyways, always feel free to send me your CV and a cover letter, and then it's nice for us to have it because, of course, we're going to expand within the next year, also within embedded and IoT.
And what if, in terms of IoT, what do you say is like a good profile of embedded system engineer? Like, what is like the dream candidate when you look at the CV?
I love if they have done a lot of projects themselves, so hobby projects. So if they send me their GitHub and I can see that they've been working on a lot of different projects, it can also just be related to their studies. But it just shows me that it's a person that really loves to work with these things. And then I think for us, it's very much chemistry and personality that is like if we can work together. That is the number one priority. If it's a person that is solution oriented and positive and goes into problems with a mindset that I can solve this, and I don't care how much time I have to spend on this. I will find a way for this to be solved. And I think that's way more important than grades or anything else. I don't really believe in grades as being the most important thing at all. It's way more about mentality and how you solve the problem.
Yeah, I do agree. I was actually thinking also when you were, I was sitting here thinking about my own projects, of course, but I think this sort of drive to save electricity and CO2 have kind of like I just see a lot more companies asking about it, and even more research coming out. I know partially because maybe of the energy crisis due to recent like pandemic and the war and stuff like that in Europe, but also maybe because people are thinking more about the environment. But what do you see like? What are you hoping to see like as the next 5 to 10 years? Will it grow even more, this space? Do you see it expanding?
IoT in general, or IoT for?
No, that's like IoT for like sustainability and like saving power, saving CO2.
Definitely, I think it's going to grow a lot, and also because the 1 second, I'm just gonna stop this. Sorry. I think it's gonna grow a lot because and I think the regulations are actually gonna drive the growth because more and more companies are being regulated, and the regulations will become stricter and stricter, meaning they have to find places to save CO2, and electricity is one of the easier ways to do it. And for a company to be able to save CO2, they need to know what they spent their CO2 on.
Yeah,
and to know
analysis. Yeah.
Exactly. And to know that, you need the data, and that's why I think IoT comes in. But so I think that's why I believe that it's going to grow. It's because of the regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for instance, so now you're focusing on the construction sites, right? How difficult do you think it is to adapt it for other branches? I mean, we, for instance, work a lot with like tourist sector. So, you know, when they are like, now it's difficult in English, stugur, like a small houses,
Yes.
right? That are often spread out. It's very common in Scandinavia, at least.
Yes.
Maybe in other countries as well, but like this, you see this happening, right? And then Wi-Fi is usually not enough to kind of keep an eye on all this, and they are often also seasonal, right? So this problem is even bigger. Like if there's no one staying in the house, it should be it should not consume anything. And then tourists are also often more forgetful than construction workers. Do you think your solution can be like easily transferred into a different sector?
Definitely, and we have actually also looked into Stykker, because they are usually running on electricity for their heating.
Yeah.
And also on heating pumps, and there are not really any systems out there that they can use to monitor this, and especially also because Wi-Fi is not that stable, so they need other systems. So we have been considering that, but because right now we need to focus. So maybe next step, if no one else goes there first, then we can expand the system, and it can also be installed into existing buildings as well.
Yeah, but then I guess let's say will be really neat with being able to just switch your networking module, right? Because I think even like LTE is often not, at least in Sweden, and maybe in Denmark is better, but you go like in this archipelago islands, and there is no Wi-Fi, there is no electricity, there is just beautiful nature, and but that's for one of our recent projects. That's was their problem, no connection.
What did they do then? Did they make a LoRa network or?
Yeah, so we set up a LoRa network, and even that, like, they have to do their own gateway and like an antenna to cover the area. Then this is out in the southern Sweden, a bit out of the. So there is of course an LTE network, but it's not as stable, and it's often like just, this like two. Master was it like they have this coverage with the circles, and sometimes you end up right in the edge. This is where our house also is. It's not even that far from from Kalmar, from biggest city, but we like there is not right in that spot. Like you walk 20 meters away, you can talk on the phone, but not
okay.
our garden. So like Jesus, this is Europe. So, but yeah, this I think is really promising. I think we should talk also about this later after we turn off. I have some more questions here in Discord. Yeah, what is the website of the company? Is it Acembee, not Acembee? So they said it's a bit difficult to find. I'll see if I can put it up in the.
It's acembee.com. It's because it's spelled like ace, like the card ace.
Let's see if I can do this. Look at that, acembee.com.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, so we found that, and I think there are many people that are interested, and see that it's very cool what you're doing.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. Thanks for the questions as well.
Yeah, I think we should round up. I see we're pushing almost on 1 hour, so I want to keep you for much longer. Thank you so much for joining and telling us about your project. and then we have more than 100 people, I think, going to graduate from this course at least.
That's great.
Will be interested in continuing. Now we're working more with like Python and Pico in the start, but there are a few people that go directly with C. But we said it used to be more Arduino based, but it's sometimes difficult for beginners to start with that directly.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, Python is easier.
That's how I got started too. So I couldn't write a single line of code, I think, 5 years ago when I started. So it's difficult in the beginning, and then after the first year or half year or something, then it starts kind of like leveling out.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
The last question then before I let you go. You are also like a woman in engineering, right? You say like 5 years ago you couldn't write a line of code, right? And now you are running an IoT startup. So how did you end up here? What was the first, like, how did you apply for a computer science degree?
I'll try to make the story short. I'll answer shortly. So I feel like it was by accident. So I thought that I've always known that I wanted to do like some startup things. I thought it was so exciting building your own company and building your own solutions. And I think when you are a woman, you quickly get into that mindset that you have to do what other women has done before, even without realizing. I can only see it now looking back. And there's this woman in Denmark who got very famous building her own lotion company.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I'm going to do a lotion company, which is so stupid now. Thinking back on it, I'm like, what? Why did I didn't care about lotion at all. I just thought that was, if you're a woman,
Oh, she
you want
looks
to be
cool, right?
yeah, she was really cool and inspiring. I thought if you want to build your own company, you have to do lotions. So stupid, but it just tells you how important it is to have role models. And then I started at DTU because I thought I would. Then I have to be a chemical engineer to do that. And then I had an intro to programming course, and I just got hooked. And that's how it started.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for today, and I'd love to talk to you more. And if any one of the students have any more questions, if you watched it in recording, also do let me know, and I'll connect you to Aline.
Yeah. And thank you so much. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email, anything, if like to your students, if you have any questions or anything else.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your projects, and happy midsummer to everyone. We'll dance around the midsummer song tomorrow. I guess you do the same in Denmark.
Yeah.
More or less.
More or less.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.